While a lot of us have been talking about Disney over the past couple of days because there are activists in Hollywood who are claiming that they're going to boycott, and then we're pointing and laughing saying we've been doing that for years, there's been a lot of news about them slipping under the radar. And one giant piece is that Disney has offered $245,000 salary for a DEI director role, despite Iger's pledge to quiet the noise on divisive politics. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I say this all of the time, you can't trust companies. You can't trust CEOs. You can't trust producers and directors and shareholders. You always have to keep an eye on the companies that you are supporting because they will say one thing publicly and scream pledges to the sky and then quietly do something completely different. And that is what Disney thinks that they can get away with at this point, which is not going to work. We definitely all have given up on Disney. A lot of us do not care about Star Wars or Marvel or really anything that they're creating, but they made a lot of big promises. They were going to stop focusing so much on divisive politics. They wanted to get back to entertainment. It sounded like it could be promising, especially pairing all of that with the fact that they were going to go for quality over quantity. And now we all know that this is total and complete bullshit. So when Bob Iger returned as Disney's CEO, he suggested the company would step back from divisive politics and quiet the noise surrounding its involvement in culture wars, which again was a pretty solid statement. Yet Disney's latest hiring move makes it clear that corporation is not backing away from its controversial diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. In fact, it's doubling down with a position that pays nearly $250,000 per year. Now, of course, we know most of the people in the video game industry and in Hollywood do not care about entertainment value. They do not care about creating unique, fun, high quality content for people to enjoy. They care about using entertainment as a vessel for propaganda. And it is so sad that a company the size of Disney has become so entrenched in pushing their ideologies over the past couple of years. They are firing people who have different opinions. They are silencing people with different opinions. And ultimately, yes, Disney is not creating high quality content anymore. I used to be a really big fan of Star Wars. I used to be a really big fan of the MCU and even the Disney Renaissance period, right? Where they were putting out all of those amazing movies like, I don't know, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Aladdin, tons of great content. And they've just lost their magic over the years. And I do think that that is because these corporate entities at a company like a Kathleen Kennedy, like a Kevin Feige, like a Bob Iger, right? They do not care at all about what their workers are doing or hiring the best person for the job. They are hiring based on a political viewpoint. They're only hiring certain people to make content, which definitely doesn't actually mean that the best person for the job is getting hired. But the fact that they are doubling down and they are willing to pay somebody $250,000 nearly to be a DEI director is crazy. So it says on Disney's own career page, a listing for director inclusive learning integration and planning at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank spells out the company's ongoing commitment to DEI initiatives. The description leaves no doubt about the emphasis diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical enablers of this effort. The DEI organization is focused on creating, leading, and supporting our people in culture inclusion strategies. Now, I know months ago, a lot of people thought DEI was over. All of these programs and these groups were going to be dismantled at these companies, but that was always a fool's errand. We always had high hopes, but of course we were let down because that's not what Marxists are going to let happen. They are going to cling on as tightly as possible. And sure, they love to change vocabulary and language and they love to rebrand themselves, but that doesn't mean that they disappear. And just because some companies don't have DEI programs anymore doesn't mean that all of those teams are not there. They just basically slap on a new coat of paint, and Disney is no different. Why would you dismantle an entire part of your organization when you might need it again in the future? And it is sad to see this happening because I want Disney, like any company this size, to make good content. They have so many resources at their disposal, so much money at their disposal, and I would like for them to create good entertainment, but that's clearly not going to happen again. Now, Bob Iger has repeatedly signaled that he wants Disney to step away from political firestorms. At a 2023 town hall, he told employees, "Do I like the company being embroiled in controversy? Of course not. It can be distracting and it can have a negative impact on the company. And to the extent that I can work to kind of quiet things down, I'm going to do that." Yeah, of course he doesn't like there being controversy because then you end up being boycotted. Look at what is happening right now over the Charlie Kirk situation. They have actors boycotting, they have left boycotting, they have the right boycotting. Basically, everybody is against Disney right now, and they're probably panicking because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to make this better. Now, of course, this boils down to rebranding and not a retreat. It's worth noting that earlier this year, Business Insider reported Disney had shifted some DEI structures, such as rebranding employee resource groups and reducing how DEI is tied to executive compensation, but that doesn't amount to retreat. The new director role shows DEI is still at the heart of their internal culture, just reframed to appear more business focused. Yep, that is what cultural Marxists do. They do not retreat, they just rebrand and slightly alter the wording so that you believe that they're not a big worry anymore. You don't need to pay attention to what they're doing. That is what individuals at companies like Sweet Baby Inc. wanted to happen. They wanted to reshape the industry and reshape culture in the shadows because it's easier for them. We saw what happened with SBI. Everybody boycotts any game that they are working on now. And I can't sit here and feel that bad for Disney that they're receiving so much backlash right now, that so many people are mad at them because they lie constantly. It says the contrast is stark. Iger publicly talks about quieting controversy, but the company continues to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in roles designed to embed DEI in every aspect of its operations. For critics who hoped Iger would keep true to his word and have Disney step away from the ideological battles that consumed the company in the past, this job listing is a blunt answer. DEI is not disappearing, it's being institutionalized, resourced, and rewarded. None of us should have ever had any faith in Bob Iger. We shouldn't have ever trusted him. I personally didn't, but I do understand when it is a company you have cared about so much in the past, you want to assume that they want to do their best because you also want the best to happen to them, but that's just not the case with a company like Disney, who over the years has lied so much, who has been so untruthful, and I can't really say I'm shocked. $250,000 per year sends a message, and the message is that Disney's leadership still sees DEI as a non-negotiable, even if it's framed in softer language. The culture war controversies that have plagued the company's image aren't going anywhere because behind the curtain, the infrastructure driving them is stronger than ever. So I can't sit here and feel that bad that Disney's going through so much controversy, especially when they are doubling down on DEI by offering nearly $250,000 to somebody to push propaganda within this company and to become a DEI director. So I'm curious to see if this will lead to a significant amount of backlash, and of course, if it does, if they will end up making any statements, but it's definitely not looking good for them. And after all of these promises, we're finally being able to confirm that they were hollow and that they don't actually care about listening to their customers again. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.